This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today that you will consider this as your vitamin or supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? Leave a rating and a brief written review. It will enable others to be able to locate this podcast that haven't found it so far. Hey, I have some space in my calendar. I'm looking for the next level of leaders to come alongside and assist and help. And if you'd like to consider the possibilities, go to drronblake.com/call, get on my calendar, and I will give you a call. Today's podcast, we're going to talk about habits. I am of the impression that habits form so much of our lives that we almost totally ignore the fact of how really, truly important they are. Habits are things that we do almost without thinking, and at times, absolutely without any thinking. For instance, taking baths, brushing our teeth, those are things that we were instructed to do. You remember when you were a child, you were continually being instructed about washing and brushing your teeth and taking care of yourself. And there'd be times that you would come to the table and it would be noticed and said that you did not brush your teeth. And therefore what happened was you would have to go back and do that because to that point it had not become a habit. But now I brush my teeth and don't even think about it, don't put it on a to-do list. It just happens automatically. That's because all of our habits are formed by repeating it, repetition, not reputation, repetition. We've brushed our teeth for so long that it's just become a part of who we are by nothing more than repetition. Now, I want to talk to you about 10 qualities. There could be a lot more qualities of the kinds of habits that especially you as a leader need to make sure that are part of your lives. And the very first one I think that we require and look for in our leader is humility. We have all either known personally or have experienced or certainly know legendary bosses who were egomaniacs and who were all about them and everything revolved around them. They were indeed the center of their own solar system. But those are not the kind of leaders that last for a lifetime. Those who not only leave a legacy, but leave behind them many women and men who they have mentored and encouraged to go into leadership. Humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. That there is a fact in which humility understands that no matter how many hours I work, no matter how many skills I possess or talents, or how much I have worked to get where I am today, I am the recipient of a lot of grace. And it's taken a concerted effort by a lot of people to help me get to the place that I am in today. Never forget, no one is made by themselves. We all need others. And a part of humility says, I am not just here to be the boss. I am here to be the lead servant, a servant to all. The second good habit, one that needs to be repeated until we do it by repetition constantly, is to be a risk taker. Now, I know that's off-putting for many, for it seems to be that there are lots of people who are sort of predisposed to playing it safe. And just the mere thought of taking a risk is fearful. Now, I'm not talking about taking a risk that is foolish and foolhardy. I'm talking about things that are calculated, they've been counted, they've been worked on, they're smart, they will move our life, our organization's life, it will help people, it moves things forward. I'm talking about taking risk over things that are worthwhile and make a difference. You are not where you are, as I say time and time again, because of what you know or who you know. You are there to make decisions, to make good, calculated, smart, worthwhile decisions that you've thought through, worked with, consulted with others, prayed, all of those sort of things where you've taken lots of inputs. But at the end of the day, it doesn't help us that you've garnered a lot of information and knowledge if you do not act upon it. I don't mean be foolhardy, as I've said, and just go around destroying places. But if you're going to move things forward and you're there for that to happen, you're going to have to take some calculated risks. The third habit that needs to be a part of a leader's life is that they value people. It was Mark Twain who, his quotes are so funny anyway, but he said, "Nothing needs reforming as much as others' habits." What he was really saying is we can very easily see the bad habits in others and know how they should change and what they should change and why they should change. Have you ever held the mirror up to yourself and looked at what really needs to be changed in our lives? But people are important. They're vital. They're vital to our own emotional and physical health. They are just a part of what makes the world go around. Don't so value the organization or the bottom dollar or anything else you may try to substitute and forget that you need to value people. People are important. And it is a good habit when you're making decisions, even organizational decisions, to ask yourself, what is the impact on the customer? What is the morale and the impact upon the people who work here? Value people. Don't just value decisions and bottom lines, but value people. The fourth habit for someone who is a leader is you need to be focused. You just need to be focused. Cultivate only the habits that you're willing should master you. Habits is a neutral word. Oftentimes when we use it, we're trying to describe bad habits or things that we'd like to break. So set your heart and mind as a leader on only developing those leaders that you wouldn't mind if they mastered you. And it's sort of the things that we are talking about today. So you've got to be focused. The next that I would say is number 5 would be a habit that needs to be cultivated by any leader is to be confident. We need leaders who are confident. Feeling sorry for yourself in your present condition is not only a waste of time and energy, but it's the worst habit you can possibly have. So said Dale Carnegie, the godfather, as it were, of positivity. Quit worrying about things that you can't change. Quit feeling sorry for yourself. Everyone has had setbacks. Everyone has had deficits in certain areas of their life. But become a confident person who believes that you are here to make a difference and cultivate the habits that will enable you to make a difference. The sixth habit that ought to be in evidence in every leader is that they are generous. There seem to be givers and takers, and then some folks talk about those who are kind to match gifts and barterers. Cultivate the spirit of generosity. Give without expecting to get anything back. Give and invest your time, your effort, your talent, and even your money into helping others. There's something about the spirit of generosity. There's a principle that we see in the Bible that's nearly a part of every culture, and that is you reap what you sow. And if you sow misery and if you sow cynicism, that's the kind of a harvest that you are no doubt going to reap. So be generous, give your time, give efforts, be a helper, be helpful and encouraging to others. The seventh habit that ought to be in evidence in the life of any leader is be flexible. If we become rigid and are not looking at alternative ways of doing things, now I'm not talking about absolutes in life, But the way you run your organization is not one of the absolutes of creation. Learn to be flexible. Methods are changing, and you and I have the great fortune to live in the time in the world in which we are going through change at nearly warp speed. And the future will belong to the flexible. Go ahead, be a pretzel, don't be a stone. Learn to bend. I'm not talking compromise at this time. I'm just talking, there are more than one way to look at situations. There are more often than not more than one way to solve a problem or to meet a need. And only those who remain flexible and open will be in a position to be used and can change. So leader, cultivate the habit of being flexible. The eighth characteristic or habit that really should be in the life of any leader is be courageous. We all enjoy people who are courageous. And you would say today, well, you know, Dr. Ron, I don't feel very courageous. I feel more on the timid side. Well, let me just remind you of a truth that you already know. We are, what we repeatedly do. If you aren't a courageous person today, you don't feel that you are, then start taking courageous actions. Start showing courage both personally and where you work and where you live. And interestingly enough, it will begin to happen, because whatever you are doing right now, you're doing it because you have repeatedly done it. If you watch television for 6 hours a day, I'm going to tell you why that happens. It happens because that's what you have repeatedly done day in and day out. If you want to become a reader, start with 10 pages, read it every day. It'll expand and grow from there because you become what you repeatedly do. If you want to get healthy, start making healthy decisions. On and on it could go. You have to be courageous. And if you want to be courageous, start taking courageous action. Number 9, the 9th habit that a leader should possess is a leader should be a communicator. Oftentimes when we try to communicate and the message doesn't get through, we blame the hearers of the message as if it is all their fault. If they were only listening, they would know what it is we're doing. Remember, oftentimes the lack of communication taking place is not necessarily on the listener's side or the receiver's side, it's on the one who communicated. Oftentimes we don't communicate clearly, and we don't communicate the same message repeatedly. Part of the downfall in leadership is we live with this stuff, and so we feel like we know it forward and backward and inside out, and we just assume that the other people in the organization who haven't been living with this understand that way, and they don't. So I would just deposit for your thinking that as a communicator, if communication isn't taking place, you, my friend, we have to own all of that. The 10th habit of leadership, and it's the last one that I'm going to share today, is be a person of quality. I don't even mean quality, just quality in your characteristics, but be a quality person. It goes all the way back to Aristotle, who said quality is not an act, but a habit. You see, nearly everything that we do and everything that we aspire to really is something that we have done so repeatedly that it becomes a habit. It genuinely becomes a part of our lives. And so if you remember that, just make up your mind. You're not going to do things halfway. You're going to do it as well as you can do. I'm not talking about becoming a perfectionist, but I'm talking about putting the fair amount of labor, mental work, prayer, thought into it, and it will happen. I think the habits that leaders should cultivate and should have in their lives are humility, being a risk taker. A leader is somebody that values people, always remains focused, is confident, generous, flexible, courageous, a communicator, and a high quality person in every and all area of their lives. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today that you'll consider this like your vitamin or supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom. and leave a rating and a brief written review. If you haven't gotten on my calendar to see if there's a possibility of us working together, I'm looking for a couple of more coaching clients, and I have some openings this week. Go to drronblake.com/call and get on my calendar, and I will call you. Remember, my leadership friend, you are doing better than you think you are. You really are. And until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying, have a great and blessed day.